Hey there, Emerson Eagles. How's it going? Today is your first official day of distance learning with your packets, and hopefully, many, if not all of you, have that ready to go. We had a great turnout last week and nicely done. So make sure you're staying in contact with your teachers and getting any help and support with that you might need. I've been making my rounds, calling and sending letters and things in the mail. So if I happen to be the one to call, I can try my very best to help you with whatever work you may need. So today we are going to keep on going with our social skills lesson. We're going to talk about how our thoughts and feelings affect our behavior. Some of you will recognize that triangle there on the newsletter. And I'm going to use my little chalkboard to help point out some things to us today. So if you can recall this triangle, we have introduced this to many of you already. And so usually there is an event, which is right there at the top. You have some sort of thoughts about that event, and usually they're automatic. They're things that just really quickly come into mind. And then those thoughts affect the feelings, which affect the behavior. And it's a triangle because it just continually loops around. So I have some questions up here at the top. Where in that triangle do you think that you have control? This is a really tricky concept. This is a concept that even older kids and adults still work with and through because it is hard. So there's something that happens, and a lot of times we don't have control over that. So it's just, I have an example down here lower on the chalkboard that I'll show you in a minute, but it's usually something you chose chicken nuggets for lunch at school, and by the time you get there, Miss Chass doesn't have any chicken nuggets for you. So you don't have control over that. So then what are your thoughts? You could, this always happens to me. I never get the things that I want. Miss Chass is mean. Something along those lines. Just really quickly, the first thing that comes into your head. So then what do you think you feel about that? Maybe angry, disappointed, frustrated, annoyed, okay? And then there's usually some type of action. Maybe you're stomping around, throwing a temper tantrum. Maybe you're saying some mean things. Maybe you're refusing to eat lunch, okay? So do you see how all of those are connected? So the thoughts, if we go back, are the part that we can control. And so instead of having those hot automatic thoughts that don't really lead to anything productive, we could go back and we could think, oh, they ran out of lunch today, or maybe we had to share with another school and so we just don't have enough, or maybe we didn't get our shipment of chicken nuggets, right? So you could start to think, this has nothing to do with me. It's just something that happens, and it's okay. Next week when we have chicken nuggets on the menu, I hope that I get some, right? So then what do you think when we go over to feelings? If we have some of those cooler thoughts that don't make us react so strongly, what do you think our feelings might be? It might be a little bit of disappointment, but not anything really strong. You could be indifferent about it. It could be something that you don't have any strong reaction to. And then your behavior is likely to follow suit, right? You just make another lunch choice, and you get through the line, and it doesn't affect the rest of your day. So in the middle there, where it has the thoughts, feelings, and behavior, I demonstrated for you here that when you're over here and you have those hot thoughts, it leads to negative feelings, which leads to negative behavior. And I am realizing that this is backwards for you guys because I am shooting this video myself here. So I apologize to that, but hopefully you get the picture here. And so then if we go over to the thoughts, and we have some more positive thoughts, we have some cooler thoughts, things that don't get us worked up so much, leads to not such strong feelings and leads to better behavior. So I have this example down here on the board for you, and since it's backwards, I will just read it to you. I thought maybe you would just like a visual instead of just having me here on the screen. So when we do this lesson in the classroom, we write up on the big whiteboard and we do lots of different examples so that you guys start to get a good idea about how this relates to you in your lives. And a lot of times we talk about different things that with friends, different conflicts. We talk a lot about siblings. Okay, so hopefully somebody there with you in the room can start to talk to you about different events, different situations that happen to get your minds jogging. But my example here is that you see somebody that you know and you pass them maybe at the store or on the street. Maybe you guys are going on the river trail to get outside, and you pass someone that you know and you try to get their attention to say hello, and they just don't look at you and they don't respond back to you. Take a second to think about the thoughts that would come into mind if that happened to you. A lot of times our thoughts are based on our moods and our attitudes and how the day is going. And so if you've had kind of a crappy day and you already think maybe that people don't like you or you're not a good friend, if you start to have thoughts like they don't like me or I'm a loser or they're so rude, like what's their problem? You know, what types of feelings do you think is going to come along with that? So we've had our event, we've passed somebody who's not responding back to us. We're trying to greet them and say hello, and they don't respond. And we're talking about our automatic thoughts being pretty negative. So our feelings are going to be things like feeling worried, like, oh, why did that happen? Feeling kind of sad and let down, and maybe even a little depressed. And so then you can start to imagine what your behavior might be like based on those thoughts. You know, you might yell something out. You might ignore them the next time you see them. You might have some other types of mean words or actions, and it could really affect your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. So let's rewind. That same thing happens, and we are feeling like today is pretty good. And you understand that it's not all about you, and you can have thoughts like, oh, they probably didn't see me, or maybe they were preoccupied thinking about, you know, whatever they're doing on their walk, or if they're in the store, maybe their attention is on all of the busyness of the store and they just didn't see you. So if you have those types of thoughts where like, oh, it's no big deal, you know, it doesn't mean anything about your friendship or the type of person you or they are, you know, you might be a little bit disappointed. You were really excited to interact with that person and it just didn't happen. And, you know, it's okay to be a little bit bummed out or like, oh, you know, like I'll try again next time type of thing. Those are going to lead to some better behaviors, like just being able to move on. It doesn't really affect you. So the whole goal here with this model is to understand how your thought patterns, all about how your thought patterns affect your feelings and ultimately your behavior. So you can see that when you have a really negative train of thought where you're just continuing to go down the rabbit hole, that is a vicious cycle. And so we need to get out of that triangle cycle by recognizing our thoughts and putting a stop to, sorry, I keep having to pause the video. My little one is up here in the kitchen. So you can see how if you have a more positive thought pattern and you put a stop to those hot thoughts that just create more problems, then you tend to be able to get through things a lot easier. It's easier to problem solve and to just continue to have a positive day. So, like I said in the beginning, this concept is very tough. It takes a lot of practice, which we've been talking about, right? The things that we do in social work group are not always second nature, and they take a lot of practice. So I hope that you take some time with somebody with you in the room and you talk about those different events, different things that might happen in your house with your siblings. Maybe you could talk about that you see kids outside right now and your parents aren't letting you go out, which is, what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be staying away from each other. So if you see that, what types of thoughts might you have about those kids being outside? It's not fair. They get to do that. I wish my parents let me do that. I hate you. All of those types of things is not going to lead to very nice feelings, right? You're going to have a lot of resentment. You are going to be angry. You are going to do things then, right? That's going to lead to some negative behavior and some consequences. So if you back up, and if we use that again for a second example, if you see kids outside and they're together and, your parents aren't letting you go out and about, maybe some thoughts are, my parents are trying to keep me safe. My parents are doing, what is right. This is, the rules right now. Then you might have feelings of feeling safe. Again, you might have some mild disappointment because it is frustrating that we can't go to the parks and do the things that we're used to doing with our friends. But ultimately, you are able to manage your emotions a little bit better when you have a positive thought pattern. This is a topic that will keep coming up. I think that for the next couple weeks, I'll be kind of focusing on this because I think it's an important skill right now while we are home. So good luck with your distance learning packets, you guys, and I will see you next week. Take care.